This is America, Mandan, North Dakota, which is named for the Mandan Indian tribe that was active in the area until smallpox and other white man's diseases virtually wiped it out. Winslow, Arizona, near the best preserved meteor crater, a giant hole in the ground, is located. Carol photographed it this year on our return trip from about 3 months in California. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the first practical typewriter was designed by 3 men in 1867. Gainesville, Florida, that's home of the University of Florida Gators athletic teams. Did you know that the Gatorade sports drink took its name from those Gators? New York, New York, where the first daily Yiddish newspaper appeared in 1885. Golden Valley, Minnesota. This town in suburban Minneapolis is the corporate headquarters of the food giant General Mills. Peachtree City, Georgia. In this town of 35,000 people, you'll find almost 10,000 golf carts. Some are used for golf, of course, but most of the others zip around here and there on paths set aside for their use all over town. Effingham, Illinois. That's an old railroad town that now calls itself the Crossroads of Opportunity because Interstate Highways 70 and 57 cross right there through town. Olympia, Washington, the Washington state capital where the world's first soft-serve ice cream machine was installed in a Dairy Queen location. Eastport, Maine. This is the only American town to be successfully controlled by a foreign government after the United States achieved independence. British troops occupied Eastport for 4 years during what was called the War of 1812. Obviously, the war lasted longer than 1812. This is America, Cumberland, Maryland, the Queen City as it's called, in western Maryland's Appalachian Mountains, is the western terminus of the old Chesapeake and Ohio Canal. It begins in Washington, D.C.'s Georgetown section. Newport, Rhode Island, where polo, that is the kind played on horseback, was played for the first time in the United States in 1876. Bowling Green, Kentucky, that's the gateway to Kentucky's famous caverns, including Mammoth Cave. Chanhassen, Minnesota, that's home to the nation's largest dinner theater. Actually, 3 separate theaters in a large complex seating more than 800 people. Cripple Creek, Colorado. This former gold mining camp in the heart of the Rockies almost became a ghost town, but is now a county seat and a rather popular tourist attraction. Montpelier, Vermont. It's the only state capital in the United States without a McDonald's. Fostoria, Ohio. This is unique among American cities because parts of this town, which is south of Toledo, spill into 3 separate counties. Imagine the taxing problems in that jurisdiction in Fostoria, Ohio. Macon, Georgia. This once had an ice hockey team with the best sports nickname I've ever heard, the Macon Whoopies. Peterborough, New Hampshire, where the first free library in the United States was established in 1833. Nacogdoches, Texas. Not only was this the first town in Texas, it also boasts the state's first oil well, the first pipeline, the first 2-story house, and the first ceiling fan in all of Texas. This is America. McCall, Idaho. That's a town close to America's deepest canyon. It's Hell's Canyon, carved by the Snake River, and it's deeper than the Grand Canyon or Colorado's Royal Gorge. Norfolk, Nebraska. Now talk about an identity crisis. This town in northeast Nebraska was actually named North Fork, but When the name was sent to postal authorities, someone messed it up and wrote down Norfolk. A lot of Nebraskans still call this town Norfolk to this day, rather than Norfolk. Horseheads, New York. That's a village near Elmira that is the first and only place in the United States dedicated to the service of the American military horse. Horseheads, New York. Mount Vernon, Iowa, where Cornell College is the only school in the entire nation to have not just a building or two, but its entire campus listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Richfield, Utah. Now, this is not exactly in the middle of nowhere, but it's a town, an agricultural town, that is the largest place for 100 miles. There's no place nearby that's any larger. Rockford, Illinois. It's called Forest City. Rockford is Illinois' largest city, not in metropolitan Chicago. It's the hometown of Olympic skater Janet Lynn, actress Susan St. James, and the rock band Cheap Trick. Taos, New Mexico, in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, is the home of one of America's most famous art colonies. Crescent City, California. This coastal city, just 20 miles below the Oregon border, has a dubious distinction as the place in mainland America that has proved to be the most vulnerable to tsunamis. Bossier City, Louisiana, a sister city of Shreveport. Bossier City is home of Barksdale Air Force Base. Marquette, Michigan, the largest city in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, whose landmass doesn't connect with Michigan at all, but does bump right up against Wisconsin. Bedford, Pennsylvania. That's a pretty little ski town in Pennsylvania's coal country, where my uncle had a cabin and that little stream running nearby where I learned to fish as a boy. George Washington once marched troops there to subdue the Whiskey Rebellion. Prescott, Arizona, once the capital of the Arizona Territory, Prescott outdoes itself during the holiday season as the point known as Arizona's Christmas City. Lewiston, Idaho, named for Meriwether Lewis, half of the famous Lewis and Clark team that explored the Pacific Northwest for President Jefferson. Quick, what was Clark's first name? It was Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. Grants Pass, Oregon. Now you can forget the stereotype of rainy Oregon. This town in southern Oregon is hot in the summer, mild in the winter, and dry most of the time. It's famous for its sugar beets and for the excellent rafting on the Rogue River. Texarkana. This city is not only divided between Arkansas and Texas, but its courthouse is literally split down the middle between those two states. Winterset, Iowa. That's the hometown of swashbuckling movie star John Wayne. Beaufort, South Carolina. Not to be confused with Beaufort, North Carolina, which is spelled the same and named for the same English gentleman. Beaufort is a beautiful artsy town near the Marines' Parris Island basic training installation in South Carolina. Beaufort, not Beaufort, South Carolina. Lewisburg, Tennessee. Have you heard about fainting goats? Well, Lewisburg has so many of them that it holds an annual Goats, Music, and More festival in which people can see these light-headed animals get swoon at least once a year. Teaneck, New Jersey. Now, no one can say for sure where this New York City suburbs got its unusual name, though some say it came from the Dutch tien neck, meaning neck where there are willows. Apparently, that neck of the woods is a willow grove. Wichita Falls, Texas. I once taught college journalism in this very, very hot and tornado-prone old oil town on the Red River in pecan tree country. I say pecan because a lot of Texans call them pecans rather than pecans. This is America. Paris, Kentucky, where the swimsuit that Mark Spitz wore in the 1972 Olympic Games was manufactured. It certainly didn't take much cloth to make it, did it? Lamar, Missouri, that's hometown of President Harry S. Truman. He was born there in 1884 in Lamar, Missouri. Payson, Arizona, that's home to the August Duans Rodeo, the world's oldest rodeo. It dates to 1884. Shelby, Montana. Now, for some reason, this tiny, remote town was chosen to host a world heavyweight boxing championship fight between Jack Dempsey and Tommy Gibbons in 1923. Since I'm pretty sure you've never heard of either Shelby, Montana or Tommy Gibbons, you can guess that it was Dempsey who won that fight. Plant City, Florida, that holds the Guinness World Record for the largest strawberry shortcake. The 6,000-pound cake was made and presumably eaten and enjoyed in a town park there in Plant City in 1999. North Rochester, New York. That's where a great road of heavy wooden planks, a plank road, was built. This toll road was better than a muddy earthen path, but it was terribly slippery, and it was torn to splinters by the wheels of heavy freight wagons. Marion, Indiana, this old agricultural trading post was briefly a boom town when huge underground fields of natural gas were discovered there in the 1880s. You'll remember that many homes in those days were lighted by gas, but sadly for Marion, not for long. Not once Thomas Edison came along. Barrow, Alaska, that's the northernmost city in the Western Hemisphere. The sun sets there on November 18th or 19th, and it doesn't peak above the horizon again until January 22nd or 23rd. It's pitch dark in Barrow for 2 months each year. Fort Walton Beach, Florida, plenty of sunshine there. This town on Florida's Panhandle is an increasingly popular destination for college students on spring break from cold northern campuses, or people cooped up in Barrow, perhaps. St. Paul, Minnesota, a state capital town, has a fairly elegant name now, but when it was founded in the 1830s, it was called Pig's Eye, after its first settler, Pierre Pig's Eye Parent.